I am happy to really jump into things with Christy and Andy if they want to get going. It would give, a little more time for chatting about your work. Happy to really kind of get started here. As far as the schedule goes, we're going to try to stay on a pretty good flowing every half an hour schedule, but I think that is some of the flow of this and the experimental nature of things that we're doing is going to mean that we appreciate everybody's patience and want to kind of get everyone engaged and going. So I think if it's okay with Christy and Andy, maybe we can get started on the chatting with Cultural DC. So is that cool, everyone? I am really glad that we're kicking things off with Cultural DC. Christy Mayselman is the executive director of Cultural DC, which is an incredible organization and nonprofit here in DC that makes space for art by providing physical space for exhibitions, performances, rehearsals, or space around this conversation about DC's creative economy. They work to foster opportunities for artists that are informed and shaped by this amazing intersection of local arts and sustainable communities. Art is a driving force in removing barriers and expanding audiences and creating access to creative experience. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, Christy and Andy. Take it away.
Sure. Thanks so much, Nicole. We are so excited to partner with our friends at Halcyon again for what is looking like an awesome community day from what I've seen so far. This is really exciting, and thank you guys for putting this all together. I know this is a lot of work, but we're really excited to share. I know it's tough kind of going these days, but I think we are feeling very invigorated by the amount of creativity that's coming from not only DC, but artists across the country in the way that they are adapting to kind of this new technology. And I know that they're going to continue to adapt. And so we're excited to see where that goes. But right now we're still focused on kind of our current or what will be our next exhibition in our mobile art gallery. Cultural DC launched our mobile art gallery in the fall of 2017 with the idea of bringing art directly to people's doorsteps. I think we felt that while we are so lucky to live in DC where there are so many great museums that are free, that there were a lot of people in our community that didn't feel like those places might have been a place for them. And so we wanted to create a really accessible way for people to access art. And so we've done that through our mobile art gallery. And so we are very excited about our upcoming exhibition with Andy Yoder. Andy Yoder is a DMV-based artist. He has a studio at Stable. And his exhibition, what's so great about Andy is that he really spent a lot of time and was very thoughtful about his approach to his exhibition inside the mobile art gallery. For those of you that don't know, the mobile art gallery was created from a repurposed 40-foot shipping container. And so Andy spent a lot of time doing a lot of research around shipping containers. And his project is based on an incident called the Great Shoe Spill of 1990. And what Andy found in a lot of his research was that every year something like 1,500 of these shipping containers fall off of ships every year into the ocean. And so back in 1990, 5 shipping containers full of Nike sneakers fell off into the ocean, dumping over 80,000 pairs of Nike sneakers into the water. Over time, those floated to the surface and started washing up on shores in Oregon and Washington. And a scientist and an oceanographer named Curtis Ebbesmeyer started tracking the shoes and tracking the data. What he found was really interesting because he found like left shoes floated one way, right shoes floated another. But he was able to use this data and the data he collected from a lot of beachcombers that helped participate. He was able to kind of use this to monitor the ocean currents and track what was happening. And so Andy, used this incident for his installation to really, along with kind of the sneakerhead subculture, to bring attention to the impact of consumer culture on the planet. Also, it's a great it's a great week. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. That was on Wednesday. So it's a great time to celebrate Andy's project. And I know he's been busy making lots of shoes. We have a great sneaker shop on our website if you're interested. Once you see them, you're going to be seduced. I'm always seduced every time I see them. Keep getting better and better. And so I'm really excited for Andy to share those. We also have a great time-lapse video that Andy created on our website. So while you may not get to see him make a shoe today, you can pop over to the CulturalDC website and watch Andy make a shoe in about 1.5 minutes, a process that normally takes about 2 hours. So I think it's time to kick it to Andy.
Can everybody hear me?
Hey, Andy. Nope, can't hear you. You're muted.
I got it. How's that?
Yep, great.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Christy. I don't know if I've ever had this much fun working on a project, because it actually is really fun. And I really like doing work that is in response to the situation where it's going to be seen. And I feel like just being offered the opportunity to have an exhibition in the shipping container opened up this whole rabbit hole. I didn't know anything about the great shoe spill of 1990 until I started looking into shipping containers, and I just sort of tripped over it. And I think it's a really fascinating story. But let me just show you basically what's going on, since this is supposed to be a studio tour. I'm in my studio, and behind me is one wall of the sneakers. They go up pretty far. They go up floor to ceiling. And I've got the computer on a table here, so I'm just gonna wheel it around. And then you go on the other side, and there's another wall of sneakers over there. So at this point, I've made about 240 of them. And by the time I'm done, I'll need to have another 100 shoes on top of that. So what I've done to do this is I start out by creating a model of the shipping container, so I could know sort of how I might approach this. And I'll just show you that model. I made it out of this stuff called Coroplast. It's like plastic cardboard. And one thing I want to do is put like a mural on the wall, a digital mural of the waves. And initially I was going to put this big swoosh of Nike up there and have the shoes sort of fill that shape, like at a Foot Locker store. But I'm not really interested in this, in sort of demonizing Nike, for what was basically an accident. And Nike actually embraced the findings of the scientist and invited him to speak at their corporate headquarters. So it's really kind of a silver lining there. I was really kind of interested in showing people what 1,500 looks like the number of shipping containers that get dumped into the ocean every year by accident. And just the more and more I got into it, the more mind-boggling it got. So now I've sort of boiled it down to making a whole lot of sneakers and then having some wall text explain things rather than making, actual numbers. But let me start showing you some of the things that happen when I make the sneakers. Well, first of all, I have a set of templates, and I create templates to cut out the shapes. So right now, my current sneaker is going to be a corn dog sneaker. State Fair corn dogs. So part of the fun of this project is that I'd say 90% of the materials I use, I pulled them out of recycling bins. So that kind of ties in with the theme, and that these shoes were a commodity, and then they went to becoming trash in the ocean, and then they became this great study that helped deepen our understanding of the ocean's currents and help the environment. So it went from a sort of a cool thing that everybody wants to a negative to a positive. And now these shoes were all packages of corn dogs and chocolate pie and cereal. And then they went into the trash, but now I pulled them out of the trash again, and they become actually a commodity again. But the fun thing is one aspect of it is like the juxtapositions that you have. So for instance, over here, you have this Tiffany shoe, right, is made out of a Tiffany box, and that's right next to Quaker Oats. You know, so you have Tommy Hilfiger right next to Mickey Mouse, and you have Tom Ford right next to Tony the Tiger. So there's kind of odd juxtapositions like that, which is really what, to me, is like a reflection of daily life. You know, like if you get on the subway train, you've got, you know, Wall Street executives in New York. You've got Wall Street executives next to people that are just barely hanging on. And it's that mix of things. Another aspect of it is the sort of ironies that come up just on their own. So for instance, this is a shoe, you know, it's very timely in an unintended way, but it's made out of Corona beer carton. And right next to it is a shoe that's made, this is the Victory Innovations Company, and they came up with a sprayer that is a ionizing sprayer that wipes out COVID-19 virus. It's used in cleaning buildings. So there's some timely aspects to it as well. Sometimes the materials are not stuff I pull out of the recycling bin. And one of the things about this time we're in right now is that, like, a lot of college and high school students aren't going to have their commencement. So a person asked me to create 3 shoes, one for her daughter who's graduating from USC, and 2 others for friends of hers, in lieu of the commencement, or as a sort of consolation prize. So I ordered the materials from the USC bookstore and came up with a sneaker. So along the bottom here, that's a map of the campus. This is the USC mascot. His name is Tommy Trojan, and then these are the letters SC in gold up here, and the strings or shoelaces here are from the handles of the shopping bag. So I love how the form of the shoes, or the what I make in the shoes, is reflecting like things that they come from outside situations. Another example of that is over here. And I was driving up the street and I saw a pile of stuff on the yard, and it was just like one of those, it wasn't a yard sale, it was just like a big sign that said free and help yourself to whatever's out there. And I noticed there were 2 or 3 posters, one of which was an Audubon poster, that famous image of Audubon's flamingo. So I grabbed that and made this flamingo shoe, which is actually one of my favorites. And to me, that opened up something for me, which is like, well, that's perfect to use nature, because this is about the effect of what we do when we buy stuff, what the effect that is on the planet in a way. And if you take a flamingo and chop it up and make it into a basketball sneaker, it's kind of crude, but it's you know, it's a metaphor for that. Right next to that were 2 posters by Matisse, and Henri Matisse was a French artist, a contemporary of Picasso. All the artists listening, I'm sure, know about him. And at the end of his life, he did a series of work called The Cutouts. And they're these brilliant things that he had screen printed, brilliant colors on paper, and then had them cut with these big scissors and pasted to the wall. And so there were 2 posters of that series, The Cutouts. So I was taking Matisse's cutouts and cutting them up again. So it was like going through the blender twice, and then ending up from high culture, which is Matisse, to, I don't want to say low culture, but at least popular culture. But I don't know, I think it sounds kind of appropriate, because for a lot of people, I mean, you can enjoy a sneaker aesthetically in the same way I think that you can enjoy a sculpture in a museum. I mean, I love the forms of them, and And I think that another part of the fun of working on these things is fitting the graphics and the colors of the products or whatever I'm making the shoe out of to the forms on the shoe. So here's...
Hey, Andy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
We're getting some questions in the comments, so I was going to direct some of those to you, if that's okay. But because while you're talking about the form, I thought it would be really great if you could talk a little bit about maybe why you chose the shoe that you did and how you kind of went about creating the template for that shoe and kind of how your process of perfecting the shoe, which I think has obviously gotten better and better because the shoes just keep getting better.
Thank you. Okay, so it's
I
all
see them in the back, so you should.
There they are.
Yeah.
It's been a learning curve for me. I wasn't in sneakerhead culture, but I found that the Jordan 5 was an iconic sneaker, and it was introduced in 1990, the same year as the Spill. So what I did was I ordered a pair of used Jordan 5s online. Here's the original sneaker like that. And then what I did was I took tracing paper and I traced the shapes. At first I thought I was going to cut it up, but I just couldn't bring myself to cut it up. And I created these templates, and I'll show you what those look like. They're right here. So they're made out of the silvery paper I found at an art supply store. There's just these shapes here. Here's one that is an example. Like here's that little thunderbolt along the side of the shoe. That's one of the signature things. And then here's like one of the side pieces like that. And so I can take like a box, let's say a box of like Ritz crackers, and I'll just put I'll just open it up completely and then start fitting the templates onto the box. And sometimes if it's a small box like this, I'll do the whole shoe. And if it works out, I can do it so that I'm left with a handful of scraps. I mean, I'm using every square inch of graphics off that thing. Sometimes I get lucky and I've got more than one, or there's a big box of like diapers or something like that. So I don't have to be so careful. But I try to make alignments. And, you know, there's so much expertise in the design of those products and in the design of the shoes. And I feel like I'm just like dipping in and taking advantage of it and mashing them together. Was there another question?
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, sure.
You know, I know, and I kind of know the answer to this, but I want you to talk a little bit. I mean, we've certainly this week spent a lot of time talking about the environmental aspect of this work, but
Yep.
talk a little bit about the sneakerhead culture, because I think that's something that is like such a huge thing right now. I told you, and I'm going to share this with everybody, that I went into my husband's WeWork office recently and found literally a stack of sneakers up to the ceiling that he was hiding in his office. And I was like, what are these? You know, and come to find out he's one of those guys that's like collecting the shoes and on the app. But I want you to talk a little bit about kind of what you've learned about that and how that kind of plays into this work.
Well, like I said, I really didn't know anything about it, but I've been learning quickly. And my studio partner, Melvin Nesbitt, let me know about a Disney show that Jeff Goldblum hosts. And he picks a subject, and one of the segments was on sneakerhead culture. And it's amazing. People will pay thousands and thousands of dollars for one pair of sneakers. And the serious collectors have them on display in their homes in a shoe vault, much like you might go into somebody's wine cellar. You know, like it's very similar to this. So when these shoes are released, they're done in very limited editions, and they're previewed before they let them go. So people will literally camp out for, you know, like you're getting tickets to a rock concert or something like that. They'll camp out on the street to be first in line to get those sneakers. And then there are conventions that are just for people that buy, sell, trade sneakers, and people are walking around with wads of cash like this, and they'll say, I'll buy that whole table. Let's work out a price. So it's a serious thing. It's like they're luxury items now. They're like Rolex watches. And what is great about it for me, using this sneakerhead culture, is that cuts into territory that fine art really doesn't, a demographic or a population or people that are pretty indifferent, I think, to going to galleries or, Earth Day or whatever like that. I mean, nobody can be interested in all that stuff. But what it does is I think it expands the boundaries. It gets more eyes on the work, and it shows how much we actually have in common, because aesthetically there's so much, like I said, between sneakers and art that is in common. But the thing about shoes is they're really extensions of the people that are wearing them. I mean, they're part of, like, clothing is like plumage. That's what you put out there to the world, is how it signals people how you look at yourself. It tells them how you want to be perceived. And so they're extensions of the people that wear them. And I really wanted to do something for the show that reinforced the goal of the Mobile Art Gallery, which is expanding that audience for contemporary art and getting it out there in a way that's not perceived as elitist, that's approachable, that people can enjoy just in terms of, like, color and shape and something that they relate to. And not only just being sneakers, but when you see these products, I mean, everybody knows what Mountain Dew is, and everybody knows what Coca-Cola is, and Cheerios. So you're looking at, like, iconic brands, and it ties into your own personal experience. So they're extremely, like, relatable in that way. And that to me is very exciting, that I'm connecting with people in a personal way, that they can all look at these things and bring their own associations to them and enjoy them on that level. So that does that explain the sneakerhead?
Yeah, I think so. We got another question on the comment section about how do you stick it all together? Kind of, again, a little bit more about the process, and it says, how long does it last? So I don't,
Yeah. Well, these are, they're going to last, like, in terms of, like, materials, the materials I use for, like, here's the sole of a shoe right here. And so I cut the footprint out, and then I cut a little farther, and I bend up the tab. So that gives me a gluing tab to glue a piece like this on. Here's how I start the shoe. So I'll start with this cutout, and then on those tabs, I'm going to start gluing this long piece that goes all the way around the edge. So anyway, this piece here is made out of Bristol board, which is archival paper. But this stuff here is, as you know, it's just like cardboard, and that's going to last as long as, well, it'll last longer if you keep it out of direct sunlight. But it's just like any other paper. It's got a lot of wood pulp in it. So eventually, it's going to age and probably amber up. But they all are faced with this bright, colorful paper printed on ink. So it's not like newsprint where it's just going to turn this brownish stuff. But anyway, there's about 25 parts depending on, more or less. Each shoe is different. 25 parts to each shoe. And most of them take about 4 hours to make. Some of them take even longer than that. Once in a while, it'll be really fast and go down to maybe 2 hours, but that's unusual. So they are put together, by the way, with hot glue. And hot glue, I don't know what's in it. I hope it's not bad when it's like smoking away and I'm standing right next to it. But I think it's going to outlive all of us. It's been really good. Sometimes if I get like a poster like that, the Matisse posters, I have to spray mount it to the Bristol board. And the spray mount is out of a spray can. And I don't know, that stuff I have to beef it up with a hot glue sometimes because it doesn't last that well. But that's pretty much the long and the short of the construction of them. Yep. What else? I can take you on a little tour of some of these other shoes because each one has a story. Unless there's other questions, just fire away. This was a funny one to me. There's unintended humor. This is a shoe from a a shopping bag. So again, I use the handles of the shopping bag as the sneakers. This one is by designer Stuart Weitzman. And I don't know, to me, if I was looking at a high school yearbook and I saw the name Stuart Weitzman, I would not associate with the particular model of the shoe, which is right here. It's called Nudist Disco. So Nudist Disco and Stuart Weitzman, I normally would not put together in the same sentence, but there it is. I really, you know, I was living in Annandale before I moved, and Annandale has, it's a really interesting community because it has families from all over the world. So they're going to like Asian markets and buying products, and I was hitting those recycling bins, and I was getting stuff like the greatest packaging, because, you know, stuff like from the Asian markets, it's just got the splashiest packaging with the lettering on it. This is called Marine Boy. I think it's like it's a Korean version of SpongeBob, I'm thinking. I don't know what, but there's this one, there's let's see, this one here is Kimchi. And so I just love the colors and the forms of the kimchi. It's like really, it's hard to keep your eyes off. This one is Nespresso. And that's like those cartridges you make coffee out of. So it has these really cool stripes all over it. And sometimes people bring products to me. So Melvin was in a thrift store, and he saw this game that he remembered from when he was a kid growing up. It's called Pokino. And it's a combination of poker and bingo. And it has all these playing cards mixed into it. So, oh, and I want to show you one other one, which is this one. I was eating in a Chinese restaurant, and at the end they gave me, there was a free giveaway of calendar. And so this one's made out of a Chinese calendar. So there's the panda bears. And then I combined it with a jigsaw puzzle I found in the recycling bin of a tiger. So, so it's really been fun incorporating like the randomness of what I find in the bins into the shoes. And it keeps it fresh because after you've made like, you know, hundreds of these things, you don't want it to be the same thing. Even though the templates are the same, each shoe has a different character in its shape because of the materials and the way they come together. It's never exactly quite the same.
Andy, do you think, I know that the shoe count is growing, and you seem very enthusiastic right now still about making shoes. And I wonder if that is going to wane at some point. We've got a question about whether or not you want to continue the shoe project with other shoes, or maybe you can talk about what's next if it's not going to be shoes.
Yeah, that's the looming question that I'm aware of, because I'm really enjoying this. I know I don't want to spend the rest of my life making shoes though. I did do, actually, this is, somebody pointed out that I did another shoe project earlier, which was also very important to me. It was a pair of 7-foot-long wingtip shoes made out of black licorice. And that was based on like personal memories growing up with my father's, the wingtip shoes he wore to work. But that was one thing. And I've also thought about making an oversized pair of shoes or a single shoe out of bamboo and rice paper, like a giant lantern. So it would be illuminated from the inside. And one of the other artists here at Stable is an expert in Sumi ink technique, so that I would collaborate with her. And she could do things like, she's actually, her particular expertise is in cherry blossoms and bamboo. But I just like the idea of a really huge oversized shoe suspended from the ceiling with lights from within. Because another aspect of this project is that it sort of ties into cultural stereotypes. Here we are, we're dealing with all the stuff from overseas. We're trading with our partners in China and Korea, Japan, Asia, all other things, but we don't really know that much about each other's cultures because we just don't, we don't have, you know, firsthand experience. So some of these shoes kind of play on the stereotypes of how we learn about other cultures. For instance, this is a shoe made out of Bruce Lee posters from the Fists of Fury, and it was bought at a local store here. And there's another one which is from the Great Wave of Hokusai, his iconic print, and it ties in with the ocean theme. Did I see somebody ask a question about whether I do them in pairs?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Occasionally I do them in pairs because on one occasion, actually, I was asked to make a pair on commission because the person who had me do that, I believe was his father-in-law, is an expert calligrapher in Japanese calligraphy. So these shoes, this is one of the two shoes in the pair. So he made scans of his relation's calligraphy, and I made those into the shoe, and he presented it to his wife for a birthday gift. And I think there's something to see about. I love the idea of looking at a pair of shoes that have a common theme like that. Yeah.
Well, Andy, thank you so much. This was so fantastic. I know we're all waiting for kind of the green light to be able to get the show installed and invite all of our friends when the time is right. And hopefully everybody will come wearing their hippest, coolest sneakers, and we'll have a great party.
Yeah, I might have to break down and get a pair myself.
Yes, Andy, absolutely. You're going to have to buy some cool sneakers.
Yes.
Not that you don't have cool sneakers, but do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
I think we're all going to be ready to get dressed up and, you know.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be, if this is one of the first openings after we're all allowed to go outside again, it's going to be a hell of a party. That's all I can say.
All right. Thank you to Halcyon. Thank you to our friends at Halcyon for hosting such a great event today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.